So first I want to say Yom HaAtzmaut to everybody, and welcome all those who are visiting us here, joining us today together in the shiur. And as Rabbi Ginsburg mentioned, that the celebration of Yeshiva should certainly contain a component of Torah. We are a very Torah-oriented nation. Just about everything we do, there always has to be some involvement in Torah, and we naturally cling and move ourselves to how the Torah and how the mitzvos and how Chazal view just about everything that we can come in contact with in our lives. And of course, a special day like today, Yom HaAtzmaut, we certainly will try to get an insight into the feelings or the ideas and the halachos of our great Chachamim, our great Tanaim, Amoraim, Rishonim, Achronim. And of course, we're in a very special position because obviously, as we know, there's very little written on it because it's very current events. So what we usually try to do is to try to go back and see how they understood different events which we identify with today. And thinking of a topic, certainly nothing, in my opinion, can be more important than the idea, the actual mitzvah of living, residing in Eretz Yisrael today. So, how we view that. So we start off with a pasuk in Bamidbar, Perek Lamed Gimel, pasuk Nun Gimel. You have a pasuk in Bamidbar, Perek Lamed Gimel, pasuk Nun Gimel. And if we're all on the same page, the same chumash, it might make it easier. Page 486, pasuk Perek Lamed Gimel, pasuk Nun Gimel, and the pasuk says, V'arashtem es Eretz, and V'arashtem es Eretz, and you shall take possession, or you should drive out the inhabitants of the land.
What was the pasuk again?
Perek Lamed Gimel, pasuk Nun Gimel. Nun Gimel. Right, in this chumash, we'll go to the same chumash, page 486. I can't get more specific than that. Okay, so it says, V'arashtem es Eretz, and you shall take possession, drive out the people living in the land. Actually, obviously we're talking about, this is in the Midbar, and the instructions of what will come to them when they come to Eretz Yisrael. Yishaftem bo, you should dwell there. Ki lechem nesati es Eretz, because to you, to Bnei Yisrael, I have given you this land, l'reshes Ozer, to take possession of this land. That's on this pasuk. So how does Rashi explain the pasuk? So Rashi says, "V'arashtem es Eretz, v'arashtem Ozer miyoshveha," and you shall take possession or drive out the people who are living there. V'az v'shaftem ba, then you shall be able to reside there. Tuchlu liskayim ba, then you'll be able to stay there. V'im lav, and if not, if you don't drive out the inhabitants of the land, lo suchlu liskayim ba, you will not be able to stay there on a permanent basis. Now Rashi is basically referring to is that if you have foreign nations living there, as the Torah points out many times, as it will actually go down pasuk Nun Hey, it says a little very clear. V'im lo sarishu es yoshvei Eretz, and if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land mipnechem, v'haya asher tosiru mehem, and those that are going to left there in Eretz Yisrael, if you don't drive it out and you say, okay, listen, these are nice guys, and we'll live together in happiness and harmony. No, if you don't and you leave them over, then these people will be lesikim beinechem, like thorns in your eyes, v'litzninim b'tzidechem, and pricks along your sides. And they will cause you hardship in the land that you live. In other words, eventually you're going to be, the nature of mankind is to be influenced by his society, by his surrounding, and if you keep these people who are over the Veda Zara in your land, eventually they will cause you hardship, either physically or by influencing you, and once you become influenced by them, you don't do the mitzvahs, and you'll be driven out of Eretz Yisrael. Because remember, Eretz Yisrael can only contain Bnei Yisrael, only only when they observe the mitzvahs. So that's why Rashi learns the pasuk as advice, suggestion, what should be done when Bnei Yisrael comes and conquers Eretz Yisrael in the future, the times of Yishuv ben Nun. But the Ramban takes a different approach. The Ramban says on the Chumash, back on Nun Gimel, where we said V'orashtem es Eretz, Yishaftem ba. So the Ramban says al dati, according to my opinion, zo mitzvahs asehi. This is a mitzvah aseh. Yitzava osam. You've been commanded. Sheyeshvu ba'aret. You should live in the land. V'yarshu osa. And take possession of the land. Kihu nesan the land was given to you. V'lo yimasu b'nachas Hashem. And the inheritance of God should not be detestable for you. All right, then he goes on, and let's see, we'll pick up now. And then the Ramban even goes on to say that Chazal were extremely encouraging halachically for people to live in Eretz Yisrael. And he brings down the case, a Mishnah, Isha she'eno rotzel alos, in Bala, let's say a husband and wife, and the husband wants to go to Eretz Yisrael, and the wife doesn't want, and she refuses. So then the halacha is that he could divorce her without a get. Divorce without a ksuba. He divorced her and she loses her ksuba. On the other hand, the reverse case is also true. If she wants to go to Eretz Yisrael and he refuses, then she has the right, it's grounds for divorce, and she collects her ksuba. So all this is to encourage people to live in Eretz Yisrael. And then he quotes Rashi, but he says, Kamoshe Pirashnu Ikar. When I have explained, he disagrees with Rashi. Rashi's just explaining the psukim on a suggestive way on what to do for future generations, not codified as a mitzvah. But the Ramban says no, it's clearly a mitzvah. And actually, the Ramban brings it down in the Sefer Mitzvos, a little more elaborate, which you have to use Xerox. Now, you should know that really there were, in the Sefer Mitzvos, there really were, I'd say, I guess we could say like three major stages in the writing of the Sefer Mitzvos. The early writers would include the Balachos Gedolos and Rav Saadia Gaon. They're the ones that did the first major compiling of the Taryag Mitzvos. The Torah doesn't give us a list of Taryag Mitzvos. All this was compiled even after Shas. The Gemara doesn't give a list. The first ones to compile the Taryag Mitzvos was the Balach Gedolos and Rav Saadia Gaon. And the next major author of the Taryag Mitzvos was the Rambam. The Rambam compiled again the Taryag Mitzvos. And actually, there's a very famous sefer was written by, because when the Bahag and Rosh Yeshiva Gaon compiled the Taryag Mitzvos, actually it was a poem, a very short little poem, maybe 200 words. And each word is hinting to another mitzvah. It's very difficult to understand what you're driving at. There's a tremendous Gaon that lived about 100, a little less than 100 years ago, or more 100 years ago, Rav Perla. He was an unbelievable genius. He wrote, from that little poem, he wrote 3 thick volumes explaining every detail of the Rosh Yeshiva Gaon's Sefer Mitzvos and where he differs with the Rambam. And I don't remember exactly, but he came out with roughly about 270 differences between the Rambam and Rosh Yeshiva Gaon in Sefer Mitzvos. And you have to keep in mind, once you take one mitzvah out, so you got 612, you got to put another one in. Once you put another one in, so then you got to figure out why the Rambam didn't count this one. And every time you do this, you got to go through, and then why Rosh Yeshiva Gaon. So it comes, his Sefer is just remarkable. He must have been he was a super genius, and he, in my opinion, he put any computer to shame with his calculation of all these mitzvahs running through his mind. But anyway, like I said, that was the second era of the Taryag Mitzvahs, was the Rambam. And he writes where he disagrees with basically the Balachos Gedolos in many areas and so on and so forth. And the last one to do it as a impressive influence for Klal Yisrael was the Ramban. The Ramban wrote on the Rambam, and he differs in quite a few places. Actually, in the Mitzvah say he has here 16 differences. And remember, you got to keep in mind, once you take one out, you got to put one in, so it has to equal out. And it's the fourth mitzvah aseh. The fourth mitzvah aseh where the Ramban says that the mitzvah is shetzivanu l'reshes ha'aretz. We are commanded. It's a mitzvah aseh to inherit the land. Asher nasan hakel that God gave us la'avosenu la'Avram Yitzchak la'Yaakov. And so this, the Ramban says, the mitzvah aseh. You also have to keep in mind, the Ramban, the last 3 years of his life, returned to Eretz Yisrael. He was driven out of Spain, where he had the famous debate. The king, I can't remember his name, demanded that the Ramban would debate with the church on the authenticity of the Jewish people's understanding of the Torah. And the king promised the Ramban that no harm will happen to you. Because the Ramban didn't want to do it. He knew he was going to be in trouble. And the king promised him no harm will happen to you. And the king said that to be sure that the debate is fair, you, the Ramban, will not be permitted to ask any questions. Nothing. And just answer. And that's going to be a fair debate. Of course, the king didn't realize that he was starting with the Ramban. And after the debate was over, I mean, anybody who reads actually Rav Chevelle put it together. He got all the manuscripts, but he has it in Hebrew and English, and it's really very nice reading. And you just really see how the Ramban just wiped the floors, wiped the church right off the board, and made the Christianity and the ridiculous religion with well, just close that for 1 second.
Should I mute it out?
Mute, yeah. He just brought out the afterwards, the king told Ramban, I know I made a promise no harm will happen to you, but you'll have to leave. And Ramban says that he knows the mitzvah say to go to Israel, and now Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving him the opportunity, and he came to Eretz Yisrael, and he came to Akko, where the Jewish community was there, and in the year, I think it was 1269, with my Google guys, don't Google this to me, he made his way up to Yerushalayim from Akko. And there was a time where wars were going on back and forth between the various different segments of the people, and there was Erev Yom Kippur. He came to Har Zeisim and established the first minyan after Chorban Bayis Sheni, and that minyan moved eventually to the old city where you have the Ramban Shul, and when it was taken by the Jordanians in 1948, it was pretty much left desolate, and it wasn't restored until Baruch Hashem, after the 6-day war, Baruch Hashem, was returned to the right. And as we all know, everything is being refurbished and brought back to its honorable position. But anyway, so the Ramban writes that to mitzvah aseh to live in Eretz Yisrael, and quoting our famous pasuk, the pasuk b'midbar, v'rashtem sa'aretz, v'yishaftem ba, and therefore he goes on to support his opinion. So I'm going to skip down a little bit, and let's pick up where the Ramban wants to support his opinion by quoting various Gemaras. Yeah, first of all, let's pick up from here a little bit. Let's see if we can help you find it over there. Yes, so the Ramban, first of all, I want to point out that it's a mitzvah l'chol hadoros. If you could find it in the sheets there, Harei nitztavinu b'kibush b'chol hadoros. It's always to conquer Eretz Yisrael throughout all generations. That's the mitzvah. Don't think it's a mitzvah at certain times, but it's b'chol hadoros. That for all generations, it is a mitzvah to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Yes, it's on the second page, one line down. Second page, if you see the second page, one line down, we see that, 1 second, I'm sorry, no, I'm not going too fast, 1 second. I'm sorry, the first page, 2 lines up. Yeah, it's Tavinu Anachnu Levo Ba'aretz, L'chbosh Hamedinos, L'hoshev Ba, that we are commanded to come to Eretz Yisrael, to conquer it, and to live in it and reside in it. Okay, all right, now let's pick up over here where the Ramban says, let's go here. And then if you go down again on the second page, go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down. You see again he says that the commandment is 9 lines down the middle that the tzivui is b'kibush b'chol hadoros for all generations. No matter what era you're in, it's a mitzvah to conquer Eretz Yisrael. Let's see over here. Let's go on from that point. For all my need, right? And the Ramban says, and I say, ki ha-mitzvah, the mitzvah, shachamim mafligim ba, the mitzvah which shachamim stress of living in Eretz Yisrael, the diras Eretz Yisrael. This is living in Eretz Yisrael. Ad she'amru, until they make it very clear, and they say, shekol hayotze mimena, anybody that leaves Eretz Yisrael, v'dah b'chutz la'aretz, and lives in chutz la'aretz, yehei beinecha ka'oved avodah zara. It's like you're serving avodah zara. Shenema, because the pasuk in Shmuel, where it says ki gershuni, Yedav Melech is saying he's driven out of Yerushalayim, and he's saying ki gershuni hayom, I've been driven out today, mistapech b'nachlas Hashem, from cleaving to the inheritance of Hashem, lemor leich avod elhim acherem. It's like saying go serve other gods. So you see, so the Ramban is using that as support that it's a mitzvah, say, to inherit Eretz Yisrael. And skip down the line. In Cain, he mitzvahs asay ledoros mischayev kol yochid meno v'afilu b'zman golas kidur b'tam b'komos harbe. Yeah. So Ramban makes it very clear. Ramban makes it extremely clear that it's a mitzvah say that applies for all generations, for all times. But he quotes a very strange Gemara. The Gemara that he quotes is whoever lives in Chutz La'aretz. Let's go back there for a minute. Kol hayotzi men, whoever leaves, v'dah b'chutz la'aretz yei beinecha, you should consider it ki'ilu oved avodah zara. You're doing avodah zara. It's Gemara. It's pointing. It's not his statement. It's Gemara. That's a very powerful statement. Very powerful statement. And it's extremely powerful because most of the generations of Bnei Yisrael, since Bayis Sheni, and even by Bayis Rishon, again, we'll put all the history aside, but they lived in Chutz La'aretz. They lived in Chutz La'aretz. And in fact, we learn Gemara. What Gemara we learn? We learn Talmud Bavli. And you can't say. So you can't say that. All our Chachamim and the halacha we have machlokes in the Bavli and the Yishalmi. How are you going to say that in the halacha like the Bavli? How are we going to say that our Chachamim, which are the founders of halacha, which we follow as the Bavli, and all the Rishonim follow the Bavli? How is it possible to say they were over the Avodah Zarah? It's a very, very powerful statement. It's very difficult to understand, actually. It sort of says this statement needs a little more explanation. What is the exact meaning the Gemara is trying to point out over there? So, I think we have to, if we just take a look for a minute at another pasuk in the Chumash. Let's go to Bereshis for a minute. Find another strange type of statement that the Torah makes. Let's go to Perek Chav Ches, and let's look at pasuk Chav Aleph. Okay, in Vayetze, Perek Chav Ches, pasuk Chav Aleph, and this is of course Yaakov, page 79, using our Chumash here. So Yaakov leaves his father's house and leaves Beersheba and is on his way to Choron, and even though the famous dream, and then he gets up and he makes this very strange statement. Vida Yaakov neder lemor. Yaakov makes another saying, "Give me Elokim Madi, if God will be with me, and He will watch me, so on and so forth. And it gives me to what I need." And Pasuk Chav Aleph, he says, "V'shafti v'shalom." And I will return, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you take care of me on this dangerous mission or journey that I'm on, and everything works out. You give me my basic needs. V'shafti v'shalom, I can come back in peace, El Beis Avi, to my father's house. V'hay Hashem li l'Elokim, then you, God, will be my God. Very strange pasuk. And if he doesn't make it back, he's not going to believe in God. Because Yaakov is saying that if I come back, v'hoya Hashem li, then God will be to me a little king. And if you don't make it back, it can't be. God's going to be his God anyway. Okay, Abraham case like Yaakov. It's going to be anyway. So what does Yaakov mean by that statement? And then if we actually find another strange thing here, if we go to Perek, let's see here, Lamed Hey. Well, Pasuk, let's get to Perek Lamed Hey. Find another strange thing. Well, 1 second. Perek Lamed Hey. And if we go to, Pasuk Aleph. Yeah, and base. All right. So Yaakov's ready. This is the whole story with Lavan. Is ready, planning his journey back to Eretz Yisrael. Yom Yaakov. God says to Yaakov, "Pumalei base El, go back to base El and stay there, and so on and so forth." And then, so Hashem gives him the tzivui to go back to Eretz Yisrael. Then, what does Pasuk Beis say? Page 100. Lamanei Pasuk Beis. Yom Yaakov El Beiso. Yaakov says to the people of his household, "El Kol She'im," all those that are with him. He says, "Hasimu es he'anecha asher b'sulchem." Get rid of these foreign gods that you have amongst you. V'taru, and come tall, purify yourself. V'achlifu simlasechem, change your garments. Get rid of all this avodah zarah. It's a very strange thing. You're not putting out they're practicing avodah zarah. I mean, how could that be? And why now he's saying get rid of it? So we're a little bit limited time. So the Mepharshim explained that it really wasn't a avodah zarah. It wasn't like you said, an idol that something didn't have. But it was actually Ramban explains that it were things that the truffim were like timepieces, and it was natural for people to worship things. So they had like a certain type of clock. I don't know obviously how it worked, but people would always worship things with time-oriented things. People worship because they wanted to have a good future. So people would use it as a avodah zarah, but it could be used for a secondary thing. But at this point, Yaakov is saying anything that has any touch of avodah zarah, you got to get rid of it. We're going to Eretz Yisrael. Now, why should that be? What happens? Why in Eretz Yisrael? Even anything that might have been used for avodah zarah, that certain things are there. No, that's it. V'taru. You got to be 100% pure. We're coming back to Eretz Yisrael. You got to get rid of anything that has any sense or touch of avodah zarah. We're coming to Eretz Yisrael. Why? Well, what's it mean? Chutz La'aretz you can do it. What's happening over here? So, I think that we get a unique understanding. Actually, if we go to this week's Sedra, if we go to our week's Sedra Bahar, and if we go to Perek Chaf Hey and Pasuk Beis, we see something of interest here. Perek Chaf Hey Pasuk Beis. Bahar, this week's Sedra. So, if you're not up to completely being Ma'abed Sedra, so it's a good time to start. So, okay, so V'dber Shel Moshe B'asina Lemor, okay? The V'dber B'nei Yisrael, right, page 358. V'dber B'nei Yisrael V'amata Lehem, and say to them, Ki Suvol Aretz, Asher Nino Sein Lechem, V'shavtza Aretz Shabbos L'Hashem, and the land should have Shabbos L'Hashem. So, and then we go on to Pasuk Daled, V'shana Shviyis, Shabbos Shabboson Yeh L'Aretz, Shabbos L'Hashem. Yeah. So this gives us a unique insight into the concept of Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. You see, the Torah is using the same word as Shabbos. And we know land doesn't have Shabbos. Land doesn't have Kiddush. It doesn't make Havdalah. But it's giving us a unique understanding of what Kedushas Eretz Yisrael is about. And it uses the same concept of Shabbos. Shabbos Shabboson. That's what we use about Shabbos. About Yom Kippur. Shabbos Shabboson. Yeh L'Aretz. So what is this unique element of Kedushas Eretz Yisrael? So let's look a little more at Shabbos. And let's see what we learn from Shabbos. So Shabbos, we know that Shabbos stands for recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God made the world in 6 days, and He rested in Yom HaShvi. So it's testimony to the Brias Olam, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It tells us that we are committed and we accept that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Bara Olam. Now, we see that Avraham Avinu was the first one to recognize the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there's the Bris Ben Absarim, especially unique bond between the Avos and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We carry on that bond. And in that bond, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised him, your children will have this land. Now, just hold that for a minute, and quite a few large amount of midrashim, but just even midrash needs a lot of time to explain it. But just to take them superficially or just face value, we know the famous medrash is that the Even HaShasiyah was the founding rock of the universe, and it was from there that HaKadosh Baruch Hu expanded and extended it from that Even HaShasiyah to whole Earth. For Even HaShasiyah, something similar to a theory of inflation, which we have today in creation. But it was Even HaShasiyah, and there is where the Akedah took place. On the Even HaShasiyah is where the Akedah took place, and that is the foundation of Yadus. That is the foundation of Yadus, and there we see that living in Eretz Yisrael is not just to be construed as a Jewish homeland, a place for Jews to live. A place for Jews to live. Yesterday Richie spoke very nicely, and he spoke about the first Congress, the Zionist Congress in Europe. Well, there was a movement at one point that actually England was willing to give to Jewish people Uganda. It should be the homeland. So listen, because Israel was with the Arabs and all this and all that, and they said, you know what? We'll give you guys Uganda. No one's going to bother you there. And there was a big movement in the Congress to accept it. The Zionist Congress, a whole big fight, and it almost split. And then finally, it's amazing because most of the people in the Zionist Congress weren't religious, but they were going to break off. If they don't, they're going to split the whole Congress up. If they don't, they want the Eretz Yisrael. Somehow you do see instinctively the Jewish people, even a non-religious Jew, feels that he's committed to Eretz Yisrael. And of course, that approach went by the wayside, and then we were given Eretz Yisrael. So the mistake they were making then was that the Jewish people need a homeland. Need a homeland. Well, you have to have a place to live. So let's find a place for the Jews. No one's going to bother them. No, that's the wrong point. It's not a homeland. It's Eretz Yisrael. Why is it Eretz Yisrael? Because Eretz Yisrael has a kedusha to it. And what's kedusha? It's similar to kedusha of Shabbos. It's similar to the point that it's a kiyum in recognizing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a kiyum to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Borei Olam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and this shows the world was created for the purpose of Torah, for the purpose of carrying out the commitment of the Avos. This land was placed not just so the Jewish people have a nice, comfortable, cozy country to live in, but it was to make a statement very similar to the statement of Shabbos, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Borei Olam. And we are showing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Borei Olam by showing that Eretz Yisrael, which is the foundation of the world, is a foundation of the Avos, the foundation of the Torah. So living in Eretz Yisrael, coming to Eretz Yisrael, Kedusha Eretz Yisrael is a key recognition of Borei Olam, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now we could perhaps understand a little better what the Gemara says. That whoever lives outside Yisrael, that doesn't mean he's over Zara, obviously. Not Chaim Misa, that's for sure. It's a figure of speech. Doesn't mean that you have to kill him. No. But it means is a person who lives outside Yisrael, he is denying that kiyum of recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is what the Gemara is saying. If a person lives outside Yisrael, that means listen. It's like we could say close, similar. Again, not Chaim Misa, but the idea of person Chal Shabbos. Chal Shabbos, besides the Onesh but you're denying the recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bara Olam. So a person who is outside of Yisrael, the Gemara is saying is, you are making that denial. You're saying, I don't accept it. I'm not in favor of it. Or, let's put it this way. When you live in Eretz Yisrael, you're making that kiyum, that you recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Bara Olam, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave this land to the Avos, gave this land Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It's a land to be built on Torah, which would make a Kiddush Hashem and would proclaim recognition of Shabbos La'aretz. That Eretz Yisrael is recognized as a statement of commitment to Hashem and Torah. Now, we just have something very interesting, because we'll see a little press of time. Of course, as I said, that the Rambam was the first one to make this mitzvah by himself. As far as I know, I don't think any other Rishonim made it so clearly. Although it seems to be many of the later Achronim would took sides and would agree with the Ramban. If you want to know it's Machokas always down, so Ramban came a very powerful source for this mitzvah. But the Rambam actually disagreed. Rambam disagreed with him. There's very interesting writing in the Rambam. If you look at the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim, Parakeh, Halacha Zayin, the Rambam says very clearly, Umuta lishkon b'chol olam. And it's permitted to any place in the world. Chutz me'eretz, except Mitzrayim, because we have the old question of the Rambam, how do you do it? But anyway, if you look down on Halacha Ches, Mudlach Zashlayim, L'schor, you can do it for business. Anyway, so the answer Rambam did it for business, no choice. Okay, but in the Rambam says, Muta lishkon b'chol olam chutz me'eretz Mitzrayim. You could live any place in the world except for Eretz Mitzrayim. And then if we go on, the Rambam says, what the Rambam says, Halacha Tes. The Rambam says, Asa letzeis Eretz Yisrael, l'chutz la'aretz, l'olam. It's asa to leave Eretz Yisrael. So Rambam says, mutter to live there, good, okay, but once you're here, it's asa to leave. So to the Talmidim here of the Yeshiva, who are thinking of going back, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe check with your airlines. Tell them it's not your fault. You came across the Rambam. Because us, let's say, Meretz Chutz La'aretz. Ella, L'mo Torah. Okay, L'mo Torah. Oli Sisha, want to get married. Olahatzum Yadagoyim, you want to be saved. There's difficult times. V'chein kol k'biyotzibo, l'schora for business. So you have to plan before you go back. You have to. All right, the guys are 18. Shema Yisrael Chuppah. Okay, it might be that guys going to business, but technically speaking, the Rambam, even though the Rambam doesn't count it as a mitzvah, he says it's asa to leave. It's asa to leave. If you look at Halacha Yud, Gedolei Chachamim, great Chachamim, according to Gemara again, Hayu Menashkin al Tchumei Eretz Yisrael, they would kiss when they got to the borders of Eretz Yisrael, and they would kiss Avnei, the stones, and they would roll in the dirt of Eretz Yisrael. And the Rambam, we know, is very philosophical, very logical. Here he's showing us a very strong emotion. He's bringing down the halacha. So the question is, the Rambam doesn't count as a mitzvah. So why is the Rambam saying that's asa to leave? It doesn't count as a mitzvah. He said clearly that you can live any place in the world. He said, but if you're in Eretz Yisrael, basically he's saying it's asa to leave, unless you have the four reasons. And he's showing how the Chaim came and expressed such an emotional tie. So I think what the Rambam is saying is that you shouldn't do an action that will look like you're being mavatal, the kiyum of the concept of Eretz Yisrael. In other words, shouldn't do like an action that says, I'm packing out here, there's nothing special, which is being mavatal that concept, the Eretz Yisrael, Shabbos Ha'aretz. If you leave Eretz Yisrael saying, listen, they're all the same, all countries are the same. No. Even though there's no mitzvah, but there is that kiyum of Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. Now I would just want to add another point over here. Actually, the Rambam holds that we count the Shemitah, all these Trumos, Maisos in Eretz Yisrael, all these Rambam passings are the Rabbanim, but most of us go like the Rambam, so the Rabbanim is Manazeh. One will come to Raisa, so Rambam doesn't say when the building base in Eretz. Rambam's shit is Bias Kulchem, that when the Jews come back to Eretz Yisrael, that will switch everything to a deraisa. The Shemitah will be deraisa, Trumas will be a deraisa when the Jews come back. Now, what does the Rambam mean? Does it mean that if one Jew steps out of Eretz Yisrael, comes Rabbanan? So I have to say that a good majority of the Jewish people come back, they'll switch everything deraisa. Now, the Rambam doesn't say that when the majority of Shomer Shabbos Jews comes back. It says Jews. One time I heard from a very big Talmud Chacham, passed away a couple of years ago. He learned with Talmud of Baruch Beer. You remember him? What's his father-in-law? Chaim Zimmer. Chaim Zimmer. Yeah. So Chaim Zimmer was a very Talmud Chacham. He learned by Baruch Beer, and he said that we have to realize that based on this Rambam, even when we encourage non-Shomer Shabbos Jews to come to Eretz Yisrael, that will change the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael to a level of the Reisa for mitzvahs. So just saying, to make sure only the Shomer Shabbos Jews, and we put an effort in Shomer Shabbos Jews to come to Eretz Yisrael, yes, that's the point of Torah, obviously, but you got to keep in mind, even when a non-Shomer Shabbos Jew comes to Eretz Yisrael, that's aiding to that kiyum of actually, it's going to be, because most of the world today is not, most of the Jewish world today is not observant. That's going to be, they're going to change that kiyum from a derabanan to a deraisa, and all the mitzvahs are going to change. I guess we'll have to get on more websites of more chumras for the day. Today everyone's looking for more chumras. So a lot of chumras from Shemitah's derabanan now. Be'ezrat Hashem will come deraisa. There'll be plenty of chumras for everybody to make everybody happy. In deraisa. But you see that's a kiyum. But it's clear that the Rambam, who doesn't categorize it as a mitzvah, being Eretz Yisrael, is being the idea of Kedusha Eretz Yisrael, and that the Rambam is against, unless you have those four